And this is our first presentation together, so it's a little hard sometimes to work outside your normal routine. But I think if there's one theme here, it's youth, autism, and pushing them out of routines, which is why we're here, for many other reasons too. One of the things we do in our family a lot is use humor to, one of the things we do in our family quite a bit is to use humor to de-escalate situations that can produce tension or anxiety. So this morning when I was thinking about how to introduce this, there's so many things I could mention. The first thing, of course, is how proud I am of my family, my daughter Natasha and my son Evan. And then I thought to myself, oh, something will present itself this morning, and it did. For example, this morning Evan comes up to me before we're getting ready and says, last night I was hungry, and for a snack before I went to bed, I had sardines. Okay. Well, my pants stink of sardines because I spilled the sardines on my pants. And it's like, okay. I didn't say much. It was just like, okay, so you need to decide what you're going to do. And so I'm not going to tell you what he decided, but at the end, you can tell me if you think he wore the pants today or not. Natasha's going to start introducing a little bit about autism. We don't have much time, so the PowerPoint itself is more about our family's journey. It has a lot to do with me being a teacher, but mostly a family, and a lot to do with Victoria School District, which is where I teach, and my children have gone to school.
So I want to start by just introducing what autism is. I know the word is used a lot nowadays. We see it all over the news and in all kinds of resources. But I think it's really important to have just a basic understanding of what autism actually is. So autism is defined as a developmental disorder that affects a person's ability to communicate and interact with others. Autism is defined by a certain set of behaviors and is a spectrum disorder that affects individuals differently and to varying degrees. And it's commonly referred to as ASD, so autism spectrum disorder. There's many common co-occurring conditions that come with autism. It's not just the learning disabilities. There's mental retardation, seizures are very common, gastrointestinal issues, ADD, attention deficit disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, sleep disturbances, and sensory issues, which is one of the leading areas of research right now. The three main obstacles that children or people with ASD face can kind of be branched into three areas, as social communication, social interaction, and social imagination. So social communication includes children or people with ASD have a hard time picking up on facial cues, body language, and verbal and nonverbal commands. So this is kind of just your everyday conversations. Things like tone of voice, body language, again, and everyday conversations and expression of emotion can be very difficult for people with ASD. Social interaction, everything as simple as conversations. Social etiquette is not always understood. So things like personal space need to be taught, things like close talkers, which you'll come across. Inappropriate topics and gestures, especially in the school system and school setting, they usually need to be outlined of what is appropriate at home, what is appropriate in school. Things that we would just pick up kind of by osmosis in our everyday development have to be taught to children with ASD. And so this can also express itself in inappropriate manners, inappropriate ways of expressing their own emotion. Social imagination is not the inability to imagine, it's the inability to predict what is going to happen. So this is also considered the theory of mind. So the inability to understand or interpret feelings and adapt to change. So this usually causes really high levels of anxiety in people with ASD. one of the ways that people with ASD reduce their anxiety is through routines. So they could be simple things that we see every day, like we eat the exact same breakfast, or take the exact same route to school, or have a weekly schedule of what we're going to do. Seems very simple, but for someone with ASD, if something changes in that schedule, that's when problems happen. So something as simple as a Pro D day. Well, I thought I was going to go to school Monday to Friday, and I have no school on Wednesday? What am I going to do? And it becomes really stressful, just everyday situations that most people can just adapt to and say, okay, great, I have a day off. Or, you know, what if there's a detour on the way to school because of construction? Like, these little things that we don't usually think about can become really stressful to people with ASD. One of the important things to note is that autistics can adapt to change if they are coached and prepared well in advance. And that's kind of what Julie's going to be talking about, is how we coach and prepare and facilitate people with ASD. Another common trait that people with ASD have is obsessions and repetitive behaviors. Some common examples are trains and computers, especially people with Asperger's, and Batman. Batman was Evan's obsession when he was young. A lot of repetitive movements, which are commonly referred to as stimming, so such things such as hand flapping or body rocking, are actually ways of just calming oneself down. They can be awkward to see in social settings, and they can appear weird or different, but really it's just a way for them to calm themselves down. They can be very ritualistic, limited to the focused activity of one toy. So even if you present a child with ASD to a million different cool toys, they might only want to play with their actual one toy because it's their favorite. It can be, repetitive and obsessive behaviors can be somewhat harmful if they are self-injury behaviors, such as picking, biting, or headbanging. So it's just something that families have to be aware of, in that kind of maybe changing those behaviors if they are harmful to themselves. So at this point, I'd like to introduce my brother, Evan. We thought it would be really helpful for Evan to kind of give his own experiences in what he has gone through. So Evan would like to say a couple quotes about things that are important to him and autism.
All right.
Is it on?
No, it's not on.
Oh.
No, it's not. Hello, everybody.
Do you want to go there?
Sure. Actually, I have to read off the computer, so. Hello, everybody. My name is Evan Young. I am 16 years old and currently attending Oak Bay Secondary School. My activities at school is the cross-country team and the track and field team. Activities I like to do outside of school is I go to the gym where I work on my fitness. And some things I don't like in school is math and science. It's a bit of a struggle for me because I'm just not really mentally or physically into it at school. You could ask some of my teachers; they can tell you. I'm a whole lot better when I'm on my own, which is why I chose running as my sport. I chose it because there's no bench warming in running, and I don't have to worry about anybody else. It's just me out there, So, as far as high school goes, I think I face the same problems everybody else does. I do have a hard time, letting go, so to speak, when kids at school, piss me off. But a lot of kids through high school go through that. But I've had a good discussion with former athletes from Oak Bay that I know, such as my sister's friends, and they've told me that it's not worth wasting my energy getting mad when I can concentrate my energy on things that are important to me. They've told me that that the consequences suck, pretty much, which I know from experiences they really do. It's not worth it. This is a quote that I told my sister one-on-one. This is 100% for me. And what I would like to say is that you don't have to talk to me any different than anybody else. Please don't talk down to me, and please don't tell me that I'm autistic. Like, I know I am. But I'm more than just autistic. I'm just Evan Young, just like my mom here is Julie Straight, and Natasha here is Natasha Craig, I'm just Evan Young, just an individual person. I'm just doing my thing, trying to get through high school and see what my next move will be. All right, thank you everybody.
Thank you. A lot of this PowerPoint speaks for itself, but I think if I had to look at a few things that are extremely important, proactive positive planning is one of the main things. Proactively know what's going to happen, plan for it, and be positive about some of the strengths that people with autism have. This is Evan. Couple of things that I added about ASD to consider. We know there's high serotonin levels that cause issues with sleep, mood, appetite, and sensory functioning. 80% of people with ASD have an IQ less than 70, but many don't. Okay, it's a huge spectrum. Severity of ASD is not proportional to IQ, and this is something that's taken me, even though I know this, when you work with youth like this, you really have to keep this in your mind, because some of the challenges might get in your way of thinking of the potential that they really have. So it's just a mindset I think you have to have. Okay, to simplify things, because there's so much you could talk about. The teaching strategies that work best for me is I build a relationship with the student, work with the strengths that they have, teach them what they need to work on in an appropriate setting, and sometimes it's one-on-one, and then make sure you give them lots of practice, coach them through it, lots of practice, coach them through it, lots of practice. It can go on for a long time, but it's okay. Again, this is a little bit about how I approach my job, because it's an exciting job, and each student is unique, there's no doubt about it. This is Evan at a younger age, practicing. When teaching and coaching, obviously you prioritize your goals. You can't work on everything at once. So pick one thing you want to work on. Practice the skill in a safe setting, and then try and transfer that skill into other settings, which again, it's just practice, do, practice, do. And I think you have to be very patient, because it's very gradual, and students do need a lot of practice, but of course they're all different. So even if it's a skill like shooting a basketball, okay, you have to practice it over what to do, and then make no assumptions that the student knows what to do in a basketball game or a PE class or anything. So then you add the extra things when you're practicing with other kids. I threw this in there because it just kind of spoke to me. Okay, a lot of teaching and things we do, you can give too much information. You have to narrow down, I think, specifically what you're working on with students. I think to be positive, you can build in rewards, just celebrate learning, but make sure you build in lots of practice time and plan time for debriefing, talking through situations, what worked and what didn't work, and celebrate the good things when a skill has been learned. Know the self-regulation. I just want to say one thing. It's not a small thing. We all have different levels of what makes us work and what makes us anxious and what brings us down. It's extremely important to build a relationship with a student around that, because nobody can operate when their anxiety is too high. They can't practice skills, they can't do anything. So it's the one thing you have to always have in your mind before you even start teaching anything. Okay, obsessions can be fun. Just for example, listen to what they have to say about them. Listen hard. Then you can stop, it's my turn to talk, and then tell them something that you've learned from listening to them. And try and keep it positive. The art sessions can be fun. For example, there's lots of research out there about people in history who have been obsessed with certain topics and done really well because of their obsessions. Yes, Evan at a very young age. This was not easy. Dropping glass and watching it break, spinning shiny knives, and falling objects. Why I threw this in there, because obviously in anything you do with youth, you have to assess danger before you move on. So we had to put all those away for a while. Okay, I consider his teachers and his community and our family all as coaches. There he is with his sisters. Batman does not really fly, so he loved to wear a cape. And he loved to drop action figures out the bathroom window. It was watching them fall. So we found a mound outside the window. Okay, the only danger, that's the danger, right? So I wired the bathroom window shut, but so we could still do this, because it was a nice calming activity. But we did have an accident in the bathroom because I missed one thing. I'll tell you later what it was. There he is, dressed up as Woody. It looks like he's going to drop. I don't even know what's in his hand there, but it looks like he's going to drop it. The chocolate bar?
Yes, Mom. It was Halloween.
Welcome. Again, to try and be positive about anxiety, because it's not really a nice thing. We all have to calm ourselves. I noticed that watching these things fall helped him calm. Sort of fiddling repetitively with the action figures in his hands was calming. And watching videos over and over, we still laugh about the Lion King. We still refer to the Lion King. It's something that Evan watched a lot. But when it comes to anxiety, we do, when he was young, we avoided overstimulating environments. It just seemed natural. So he was able to calm. So here we are. Here's the porcelain headbang. Evan, okay, dropping out the window, of course. He slipped and fell one day and banged his head on the bathtub. So, and he had stitches, etc. But, you know, assessing danger is not a little thing. Just for example, it took years of practice for him to safely cross the street. You can't take things for granted when it comes to safety. You have to look around for potential things that could be harmful. And his sisters, who had to play with him a lot, became safety experts and would tell me, Mom, Evan's got this, Mom, Evan's got that. There's Batman falling out the window. Oh, I'm going to ask Natasha to speak to this because it's about Evan falling out of a tree, which you would think, well, why is he in a tree? There is a story here. But the reason we put it in, because it has to do with seizures, because seizure disorders are common, but dealing with it it was a tricky thing. So if you don't mind, Natasha.
For some reason, Evan's first 3 seizures happened when I was there. So Evan has a theory that I caused them.
Yes, you do.
It was an interesting experience because it actually led to a lot of health issues for Evan later in life and how we figured out how to diagnose what was going on. Evan and I were climbing in a tree, and Evan had a seizure in the tree, which then caused him to fall out of the tree. And so from a first perspective, it just looked like he slipped out of the tree and then fell and hit his head and got a concussion. But after analyzing the situation, we realized that the seizure happened first, and then he fell out of the tree. Evan also has a theory that I pushed him out of the tree.
Anyway, it was confirmed, after going through a series of appointments, etc., that there was a possibility of what they would call infrequent seizures, which was a relief in that it's a possibility, but there's lots of things you can work around. Thank you. I like to put in pictures. There he is, practicing on the bike. Took a long time to bike. So in kindergarten, it was the school psychologist who diagnosed him with autism. He hated the classroom. It was too stimulating. For example, he would get dressed for school, and 5 minutes later he would be undressed and under the covers. It was not an easy thing just to get him to go to school at a young age. But we worked through some things. There's another slide. There's the chef. Okay, so with the designation came some support. So this allowed him to be paired with another student and work with an individualized program that was outside of the classroom. So I think it's important to notice here, at the start of his education, he was 5 minutes in the classroom, 55 minutes out of the classroom. It's too stimulating. The schools can do a lot, but it's very difficult to find support in all settings. So just for example, Natasha helped him with his lunchtime routines because the schools are stretched to find all the support they need at different times. So it was just kind of a family decision we made, but there were other things about the school that made me rethink schools. So I looked into a smaller school. I thought different environment might help here. And the school had a slightly different belief system, although that they were very vocal about it, that all students have gifts to be nurtured. So we moved. I think it's important to add, because swinging can be very calming, and I noticed in his early years in school he used it a lot as a calming strategy. But he started to grow. They kind of got Evan. And just to be able to go into an assembly and sit through it was not a small thing. We worked through that. The school was great. And it's interesting that I tried the cross-country running here, and really it didn't work, which is interesting because we did go back to it. So things that don't work the first time. There he is. Out of my photo album. Okay, middle school, alarm bells went up. So since I was teaching in middle school, I brought him to my school. Put him in with a great teacher, worked with the teacher, structured the environment, nurtured Evan, everything we could possibly do. But really, the classroom setting and rigor increased his anxiety, and there was just way too much worry. The worry dragon ruled, I said. So even with the best possible situation there he is. That's grade 6.
Halloween grade 6.
So I, as a parent and a teacher, advocated for an alternate setting, so we worked in a small group within the school. And reflecting back, because they provided social understanding classes with the academics, the anxiety went down, things started to work better, and his academics went way up. Made friends. I'm really proud of the fact that by grade 6, he was taking the bus to and from school. He had his routine. And in middle school, he even joined the rugby team, which, do you have anything to say about the rugby team, Ed?
Well, the rugby team, it was fun. I just got out there. I just got to tackle kids to the ground. So it was very fun getting some of that. How was I? So like teenage preteen testosterone. However, I didn't do it at an early age, so I had to learn some of the rules while I was there out in the field. But yeah, no, it was actually a really fun experience though.
Except for.
Yeah. Learning the rules is hard. Yeah. There he is, middle school with his sisters, his coaches. This was an interesting story because when there's glitches in routines, it's difficult. So one day on the bus, he lost a nickel. So he puts all the money in, and the bus driver said, "You're 5 cents short, get off." Interesting, because he took the bus at the ULIC exchange. One of the reasons that's important to me is because he had learned the skills to deal with it. He walked all the way back to the school, problem solved it on his own, and it was okay. But Natasha wants to speak for a minute, because this is when I think she started to change her role with Evan.
This is, I was really annoyed by this, as I think anyone would be for any child, for any person being 5 cents short for a bus. And so I decided that I was going to write a letter to BC Transit explaining the situation and what happened. And more, not just to explain our particular situation, but to advocate for everyone and for the idea that everyone has difficulty dealing with stressful situations. And this was a very stressful situation for Evan. And so we actually got a really good response from BC Transit. They sent us a really nice apologetic letter and gave Evan a whole bunch of free bus passes for the rest of the year.
So by this time, Evan was learning his academics quite separately, but he loved the drama, the cooking, the sewing, and he got lots of positive encouragement from his teacher. I'm throwing in one thing about criticism because there was one sewing project that was not a little thing. It was a teacher that wasn't normally there and we didn't know, and she marked his project and the mark was 3 out of 12. Again, it was a little discouraging because some skills take a lot of practice. Just for example, it took him 5 years to learn how to ride that bike. But once you got it, you got it. You just don't give up. You just learn at a different rate. There is the sewing project. I know! That's his quote. I had to put it in there because it's just like, oh. Okay, now he's starting to express himself because his anxiety is down. The whole thing of dressing up and imitating when he was young, he and his friends decided to enter a lip sync contest at the school. I think it's important to notice the teacher he was with then helped him practice and get this routine down. And the 2 other buddies he was with, in my own mind, I call them birds of a feather. Because they really bonded as friends, and they were real friends. Okay. And there they are. This was another proud moment for me, even though it was a little different. Okay, dealing with IQ can be very intimidating. Lots of thought I put into it. And I decided that before he went on to high school, because now he's in high school, that I would ask for a full psychoed assessment. It wasn't really about IQ. It was more about, okay, tell me exactly the strengths and needs here, even though I had a pretty good idea. I thought, I think I'll get into it. And obviously, you could debate IQ and testing with different groups for a long time, I think. So, going into high school, he was at grade level and everything except math. So this is great. This is how the school system can work really well. I met at the high school, this is the pre-planning. She was great. We We worked out a plan where he would go there and do his electives again in a small group. So in grade 9, he worked in a small room, a smaller setting room, and was able to do his homework at school. I worked it out with the teacher because by 3 o'clock he was exhausted taking stuff there. Do you have anything to say about grade 9 yet? Do you remember?
Not really. Like you're like.
You didn't say that.
But no, like it was my first year of high school, so so I was just trying to get just try to get everything into the academic wise, but also social wise too. And right now being in being halfway through grade 11, I have come a long way since then. So that's all I really have to say is that it was just it was just a building block, really.
Yeah.
It was just trying to get me trying to get me started from there to the end of grade 12.
So we are very physically active, and Evan had watched his sisters compete at very high levels in different sports, and it was really nice. His math teacher encouraged him to join the cross-country team because Evan hadn't found a sport yet. I think I could say that. Okay, he loved rugby. We decided as a family not a good idea. Okay, the tackling's fun, as Evan will tell you, but not a good idea for who he was and is. So there he is. This is a cycling trip that the cross-country team went on. The running has been great, and Evan has spoken to that and can say more in a minute. So I guess to sum up some of the things I've been thinking about is to try and be very positive, work with the strengths that a student brings to you. Try not to build any assumptions about potential. Okay, students learn at different rates, so never think it's over. Although at times you have to shift your focus, obviously. And as I've already mentioned, we like to use humor when coaching Evan, and thank goodness Evan has a sense of humor. Okay, but I'm going to get Evan to tell you this one because I think it's quite funny. He was caught with his pants down in PE, which sounds, it's not quite what you think.
All right,
Explain how that works.
Okay, so this was PE, grade 10 PE, boys 10. So a year ago, and I had a teacher who was very funny. He had a great sense of humor. So from what I can remember, I think I was about a couple minutes late for class or whatever, and I found out that we were playing in the gym, and so I was in there, and I was feeling kind of lazy or whatever, and I noticed that a few of my classmates were up on the stage changing, and no one was in there, and I thought, I think I'll just change right there because I was late, because I was a bit late anyway. So I'm trying to recap. So I'm there in the East Gym, so I'm there changing my gym strip. Nobody cares because a few other students are doing it. And right when I was about to put my gym shorts on, my PE teacher walks in, and he pretty much catches me, and he lectures me and the other students too who are up on the gym stage changing that we got to do it in the change room. He was telling me, like what if I was the vice principal, because we have a female vice principal now, and so it was. But he was very funny about it though. He kind of just used it to diffuse the situation, and after that I just went home and said, okay, that was a grade 10 mistake, whatever. I'm not doing that again. And just to say that this year I actually won't be able to get away with it, partially because in grade 11 and when you're grade 11 and 12, you're with co-ed. That'll just be really, really awkward. So, you know, that's all I gotta say about that story.
Okay, you can click through that. Oh, there he is. This is the thing about sometimes there are things you kind of give up on. He still does tennis in PE, and he still says, I suck at tennis. I can't do that one. We started early. So here's an interesting story that Evan's willing to tell you about. So high school and peers, he decided it would experiment with alcohol. And a friend. But he was on a little bit of medication at this time. So it was a very difficult situation when he ended up with a bloody nose for mocking a rugby player. Not a good idea. I wanted to put at the end that a teammate from the running team brought him home. Because that's the nice part of being on a team, I think, that it's, even though it's an individual event, it was a very difficult way for me and him to go through a learning situation. But this is related to. So this was a time of where we had to work through a lot of things. Okay, so someone had to track the words back and forth, and so every time, boy, this is not a little thing. He's at a school event, and the consequences were extremely serious. He was suspended from school and from the track team. So he'd been practicing track for 3 months, and then he was not allowed to run track. He did apologize to the track coach. But what we want to say here is I think the consequence was extremely severe, and I supported it because I thought it was appropriate. Severe consequences for something quite severe. Okay, so again, Evan has worked a lot through frustration. So this all happened and he was sent home. He got frustrated and he punched a locker. So when he was at home, I decided, okay, he's going to write a story about how to deal with these things better, because now he can. So the next slide will be the story he had to write, and another student had to create the graphics, did create the graphics with the story. So this is his story. That's the title. And he wrote all of this himself. Can you stop there for a minute? So these are the consequences that he had come up with. I mean, there was some coaching along the lines here. So you could clearly see what had happened and why there was that kind of a consequence. And Evan, do you want to say anything about the social story?
What social story?
Yeah.
What?
A story you wrote about acts of violence.
Acts of Oh, that? Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, during that time, I'll put into a bit of what I was going through. So that was last week of school. You know, when I had that incident in when I was in grade 10, and I was just going through a lot. You know, I was not angry at anyone in particular. I was just really angry at myself. Because it was June, track and field had just ended, and I didn't get to compete in the islands or anything, or any, I didn't get to compete in any in track and field meets, and I was angry at myself too with my personal trainer because I had done postseason training for 3 months to get myself ready, and then halfway through I got kicked off. So it was so in my mind it was just really hard to deal with. So I was just really mostly angry at my angry at myself. And like I said earlier, when kids at school are like hassling you, it just makes it worse. So mix that all together, and then that's when I had this. And when I was at school, and and I got into an argument with a teacher, and then I left, and then I just and then I punched the locker because I just didn't have it under control. So it was a really hard time, a really hard time for me.
Yeah. That was grade 10. So grade 11 now. Interesting enough that the school offers a course in social dynamics, and I can't say enough about the program, but I don't think this is the place to say it. It's just been great. And on his report card, A for effort in all his classes, and a B average overall. Still doing lots of running and strength training. Oh yeah, here's a good one. Just a minute. Here's a few more consequences around this time. He had to try skateboarding. And there he is. Not an easy time, but okay. Here's an interesting one too. I don't know if you know who Gordon Ramsay is, but he's this outrageous guy. Basically, okay, cooking was not going well, and Evan was, swearing under his breath little things that sort of came to head. So what did we do about it? We thought about it, etc., switched him into something else. Even though he was really good at cooking, we switched him into strength training. Okay, so just kind of being proactive. Okay, here we go though. We still deal with mixed martial arts. It's the interest of Evan's.
Yeah.
That I find it hard to relate to be honest. As I always say to him, what does MMA stand for anyway? Isn't that misplaced male aggression? He doesn't think it's funny. He likes it. That's fine, he watches it, but we're not joining anything. Instead, we worked with the personal trainer at a weight room. So lots around weight training, etiquette, how to behave, but not necessarily mixed martial arts. And we still laugh and have fun around it because now that Evan has increased the bulk of his muscles, he likes to flex them in front of his sisters.
That's not true, by the way. They're just making that up.
And going with that image are tattoos, so that's our next thing to handle as a family. Uh-oh. There he is.
Yeah, that was Halloween again, too. My mom likes to keep the Halloween photos.
So we do bug him about the muscle thing. Okay, so he runs, as he said, and he weights, trains. Do you want to talk about listening to music?
Oh, okay. Sure, I'll go into that.
Music before you run.
In cross country, you're doing competitive running, and you just gotta focus on you, like how well you're gonna do or what your goal is for that race. So I use music to sort of get myself in the zone, in the zone for it. And so I listen to a lot of hip hop and rock or whatever, something with a good strong solid beat or song that would just that would just get me in the zone. It also works too because I've had a couple of meets where I've gone there, where I've gone, I haven't really been feeling, I don't really feel very, I'm not 100%, but I put in my iPod and I tell myself, I don't care if you're not 100%, you're not going to be, but you're still going to run. And, and if I go there, if I'm not 100%, it's not about what place I'll get in. It'll just be about going from start and finishing. So I'm just, I just really go hard. I mentally just really go hard on myself and just tell me to keep, just to keep going. So.
Thank you. So even though he's not playing rugby, he's still figured out different ways to get himself up for running and then relax after. And he was even able to go with the track team to Florida, although Natasha and I went as chaperones and we had to be there too. That was Evan over the break. You want to read those out? I think you should, because we're right at the end.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to read?
These are just a few things. What? These are just a few of my own personal quotes that I've come up with the last few years in competitive running. So like I said before, running is just about telling yourself to keep going and to never, 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 never give up. This is my favorite part. The last, the very last lap, you increase your speed and you keep going. And the last, 200 to 100 meters of the race, I just burn that fire. I just really increase, just sprint. And that partially has to do with the fact because, in guys cross country, we're a lot more competitive than when the girls run. It's just, it's just a well-known fact. Well, no, it's not. It's not like that. It's just, I've been in a few meets where, guys kill themselves to get in front of me, or they're shove or whatever. So we're really just a lot more, just a lot more competitive.
Physical.
Yeah. Everybody, in running is cool. That's one of the reasons why I joined Oak Cross Country, because everybody there is really really likable. And you get along with them, and it's just a really good atmosphere. And you basically don't have to bench warm. You just you run whether you feel like it or not. You just run.
There they are. He works out a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe we should get now.
No, we can do it. 10 minutes. 5 minutes.
Yeah, we need to go to that. There's my last slide.